The internet is not happy right now at Ubisoft after an executive, Philip Tremblay, who is the director of subscriptions, basically came out and made some comments, and the too long didn't read of it, is that he feels gamers should be getting comfortable not actually owning their games. The short end of the stick, that subscription service models in this digital age means you don't own anything and that you should be okay with that. And this is a touchy subject in recent weeks, especially because we're starting to see that this digital age is becoming a little bit more prominent than what some of us would like. So video game ownership is a huge piece of discussion right now, and this whole rebranding of Ubisoft Plus to have different tiers as the classics and for a certain price. This is the norm. Unfortunately, we don't like it. I remember there was a time when the Wii and the Wii U came out. I did not like having to buy WiiWare or virtual console games just for the fact that they were digital only. I was kind of like, no, I don't want that. I want to own my physical games. And I'm going to be honest, in recent times, I've kind of grown to accept buying digital stuff, especially if I want to play stuff early or get some kind of bonus stuff, but it still is not a good feeling inside that at any time they could just delist a game. We've seen that in recent weeks where games are just becoming delisted, and at times, sometimes even if you own the physical version, if it's some kind of online based game like the Friday the 13th game, you're not going to have access to it anymore because it could just be delisted. And unfortunately, that's some of the small print we see in the license agreement that we get when we purchase a game and you tap A to move forward to start your game. That's all in there. It's all in there. But should we get comfortable with not owning our games? Let's go ahead and talk about that because it's making waves in the gaming community. This ain't a real, like a new idea. Again, we're just starting to notice it because we're starting to see a lot more of this digital age kind of, I guess, be a little bit prominent, especially when stores like Best Buy are starting to remove access to actual software and music CDs. You know, back in the day, times were simpler. We said just get our Nintendo tapes, right? And be able to play them and pop them in, and they'd start as good as gold. But then once Netflix started happening, we started seeing streaming services like Game Pass and things like that. Companies are shifting towards these because, let's be honest, it's less cost having to produce video game cartridges. It gives them more control over the product. They they have more say over, I guess, the secondary market. There's not as much pre-owned stuff out there that they miss out on getting revenue. It's for more money, essentially, because these digital games cost usually about the same as a full retail game until they go on sale, which at times, sometimes some of these games never go below a certain price. But it is a little uneasy when you start to see places like Best Buy that are slowly phasing out physical media. WWE is another example of a company that just stopped producing DVDs and Blu-rays because they got the whole WWE network. It's all in the cloud, guys. Everything's in the cloud. Xbox, PlayStation, they got their own little services with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass. It's all part of it, guys. I think with video games, we're coming to a halt in this next generation, especially when we're seeing like whatever the next iteration of the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the Nintendo are going to be. Gaming, I think eventually we're going to just see digital only consoles. Right now they're teasing it when you see like the Series S and the PlayStation 5 digital version, but they always had an option for physical media. I think eventually we're unfortunately going to reach a point to where things are just digital only, which is unfortunate. Luckily, we still have our VHS, VCRs, and we have our DVDs and our Blu-ray. So whatever physical media we have right now, we'll always be able to use it. Maybe we could burn Blu-rays and DVDs eventually if you have like a Blu-ray player that you could burn stuff on. But as far as like playing games on an official basis, Ubisoft, an executive saying this, even though it pisses us off, this is what the industry is going towards, and I don't agree with it. I'm always going to say physical media is good, but let's be realistic. Having a physical CD at this point in a video game is mute, because you put it in, you have to download a day one update and patches and all that. So you might as well not even have the disc, because you're having to go online anyway to download stuff. Like, imagine you get Call of Duty, right? You're spending like a good solid 20-30 minutes updating the game anyway. At this point, all the CD is just a key. So this day and age in modern gaming, it seems like there's actually no point to having it other than it taking up storage space. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not saying that digital should be the norm, but let's be real. There's a lot of casual gamers out there that don't give a shit whether they own stuff or not. It tends to be just collectors that care about that. So, yeah, you need downloads for these discs and these cartridges and stuff at times, and it's frustrating. I remember the first time I put in the Wii U, I was like, what the heck is this? I got to download and install stuff. So we don't own the game in a traditional sense regardless. It's a key to have access to something that we are licensing that's on a server. So games that have online connections constantly, that rely on online connections, we don't own it. You know, servers can go down. Then what do? Games no longer get supported. What do we do? Like one of the WWE games from not too long ago, not even 2 years ago, no longer supported. We have the first Overwatch game. We had a few other games that you don't have access to. Even if you spend it items, money on items and microtransactions, you don't have access to those games. You know, the Wii U, the 3DS, those things have features that are online that are no longer available. Who's to say that eventually, a couple years from now, once the Switch 2 comes out, all of our Switch games are useless? So we are ultimately at the mercy of online servers, and that's the industry standard. Now, this Mr. Tremblay, the director of subscriptions, his statement was a little harsh. I mean, think about it. You're a consumer being told you should be comfortable with not owning your games. That's kind of a little bit of a slap in the face, honestly. But again, today's society, in the gaming industry, games are becoming increasingly dependent on online connections, servers. So do we really own the games? No, it's a sad situation. The reality is real, guys. This is the digital age, and unfortunately, it's going to be a very divisive topic. There's one good thing about this, and I remember just a decade ago, it seemed like people were super anti-emulation, and to an extent, there's still people that are anti-piracy and emulation and things like that. There's a lot of questionable reasons about it, but ultimately, there is benefits to it. It's a form of preservation. What if your Atari games that you have right now, like your Atari 2600 games, they're all completely disc rotted. None of them are going to work. Even the console's not going to work. That's going to be the only way to play some of these older games. But imagine some of these games that had servers gone, like Mario Kart Wii. You can't ever play that without having some kind of modified online server that people created. You're going to have to eventually emulate all this stuff. And I think that's another side that's unofficially starting to take over as well as an answer. I know, again, there's a lot of people that don't like emulation, especially when it comes to certain games. I've never understood that. If it's retro, in my opinion, it's more than fine to go and get some NES games and emulate it and play it, for the sake of having access to games that you might not be able to afford and stuff like that. When it's modern games, like let's say when GTA 6 comes out, I don't believe in pirating brand new stuff, and that's just a huge gray area right there. But when you think about us moving forward, how everything is relying on a digital era of gaming, and there's consoles that are going to not be having physical drives eventually, because trust me, it's coming. I bet you the PlayStation 6 is not going to have a disc at all, and we're not going to like it. And this whole idea of game ownership is evolving to something that we've never seen before, guys. Unfortunately, us kids that were born in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we're getting phased out with the way that we used to operate with our entertainment. Whether it's music, movies, TV, it's all digital now. It's all streaming. And for the most part, you could all do it on your phone. Isn't that wild? Imagine being a kid in the 80s, having a phone that you can game, listen to music, and watch TV and movies on through apps. It's fucking wild. So Ubisoft, I don't know. This is a double-edged sword. When you think about their Ubisoft Plus, they don't have as much output or of games. They don't really bring that many games out. I think within the last few years, they really haven't been producing. They're only getting back into the swing of things with Avatar and Prince of Persia right now. But when you think of the price points where it's like $17.99, and then you look at something like a Game Pass, now we're having to compare streaming services and see which one is a little bit more reasonable or affordable for what we're looking for in a game service. And that's what it's going to come down to when you're looking at how companies like Microsoft are buying up studios. It's going to be all about the content that they have on their services going forward, and what you're willing to spend monthly, because I don't know. I think Ubisoft, at least they kind of came out and said it, right? Albeit it was a little sassy. But I don't know if I'm fully ready for this shift towards the digital age. Are you guys? I know this is a touchy subject. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm not comfortable with it, but you know what? It's inevitable, like death and taxes. Comment, let me know down below. Feel free to share this video with somebody. If you all share it to one person, that helps get it out there. Hit that like button. Engage with it, guys. Help get this video going. And, yeah, subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.